No, you're not hallucinating. We're back. It's the Vikings in some random hotel with the two best impersonations of George Kittle I could find off the street. One of them happens to be the manager of the Eagles, RJ. Welcome back. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Nice to talk about some football. Uh, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're about to enjoy some regular season games in a couple of weeks.
Yep. And actually a more, chiseled version of the Kittle. I mean, my man, it's looking pretty solid. Matt, good work.
I didn't do shit. The lady at Sports Clips did.
What's their? I feel like there's a saying that they have on something like that. Like I don't know. I don't know if Sports Clips went on to know their sayings or whatnot, but I feel like there probably is one around. Come in and get the clip you want or something like that.
I think that's great clips, but like Sports Clips is like it's something about being a dude, basically. It's like where
I'm a
men
dude.
go to get their hair cut or some shit like that.
I'm a dude. She's a dude. We're a dude.
We're all dudes.
We're all dudes. What movie is that even from? I can't remember.
Oh god, it's not one of the Clerks.
Brett, what movie is
look
that
who
from?
showed up.
That's from all that.
I had to join just because I saw that RJ shaved that beard off.
I did.
But he looks like he's trying to look like George Kittle now. So it's pretty sexy, I gotta say.
You guys should have saw it last week. It was horrible. I had to cut it off. I looked homeless. I hadn't shaved since like the last time we did a podcast, and it was horrible.
Never ever shave. Brett's seen me without a beard. Nobody on this earth will ever see me without a beard ever again.
Hey, that little baby face.
I was gonna say it's speaking like a man who hasn't been married.
No, that's like rule number one.
Other kind of beard.
No.
Fair enough. That's fair. All right. So, Brett, glad you could join as well. But we'll jump into this. We've got 12 teams left to talk about here, in no particular order. It's the Bengals, Browns, Ravens, Bills, Dolphins, Chargers, Redskins, Packers, Bears, Vikings, Falcons, and Rams that we have not touched on yet. So, as you guys have noticed, we have been too lazy. Well, I've been too lazy to actually put out a mathematical and or well set ranking of teams because I like getting at least 4 hours of sleep every night. So that being said, we're just kind of going about this in random order. We talked about kind of the more rebuilders in the first podcast and more middle of the road second podcast. So now we kind of felt there were 12 teams that merited consideration for the playoffs because I guess 14 teams make the playoffs. Damn it, RJ, we blew it.
Well, these are supposed to be the 12 that we think are either have a shot at competing or are already in that position. Because the last podcast, essentially everybody in that was fighting for those last two spots. In theory.
That's true. But that being said, I was also falling asleep during the last podcast, so I didn't get very far. And when we got to 10 teams, I kind of just said, okay, I think we're done.
That's fair.
Again, the joys of my life right now. Anyways, so we'll just go one by one. We'll pick a team. We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll go by based off the team we think is the least qualified to make it a deep run here to get some kind of semblance is what we see is the top 12. But the nice thing about this list is we've been disagreeing. I'll have a team on my list as a team that's probably still rebuilding, and RJ's like, oh wait, I thought that team was competing, which probably says something either about our evaluation capability or that team's build strategy. But we'll go one by one, talk about the team, and then at the end, whoever we talk about last will be the presumptive favorite who is effectively cursed. So we're all in agreement. We're talking about Falcons last.
I'll be sure to leave before then, just so you guys can talk about me without me being here.
You don't want to defend yourself?
I would hate to hear say something nice about you.
No, you are last year's champ. Feel free to stay on, toot your horn, because until anything happens or somebody makes a big enough move, you are number one, and you'll be there until you either lose the championship or somebody strings together some ridiculous amounts of trades to just
Oh, stop
make
it. Well,
the
I
team
mean,
look ridiculous.
if Mike strings together a bunch of trades, he'll just wait a couple weeks and then string together some more to take himself back out of contention.
Oh,
So
sweet Jesus.
I don't know.
Very
I
possible.
would never do something like that. By the way, if you're going to toot your own horn, please keep your camera turned off.
Jesus Christ.
All right. RJ, why don't you do the honors and pick the first team we talked about?
All right. It's gonna be the Bills.
Okay.
Yep.
I think they are okay at every position. They're I don't know. I probably would have put them in the last podcast that we did, but it's just not cool to do like a top 11. That just doesn't sound good. So this is the team that just barely made it into the top group. They have Myles Garrett and other things, but mostly Myles Garrett. So I expect him to drag the rest of this roster kicking and screaming to the playoffs.
I mean, Dak should be a top 5 quarterback, top 10.
Definitely agree with that.
So
He'll be top 10 for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if that team just isn't good enough to keep him in the top 5, because there are a lot of good QBs right now.
They have a lot of really nice assets to pass to. Cowboys specifically, not the Bills.
No, for sure.
So I can see Dak being propped up to a top 5 regardless of like how their win-loss record is.
I mean, if you look at Bill's team, it's really he's got some solid players. He's got Dak, who's solid. His offense in general is pretty thin, but on the IDP side of things, he's pretty solid throughout. I mean, he's got the bookends at defensive end are probably 2 of the best starting defensive ends that any other team has.
Whoa,
I mean, that
whoa,
stacks.
Hold on, Commissions.
It's
How
up
the
there.
hell did this happen?
It's up
Probably.
there.
It's probably the 3rd best.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best sets of defensive ends.
Hold on, Commissions. Somebody fix this. 122 overall, $450,000 contract for Jason Elway here.
Wow.
We are 3 months past the draft, and this is happening. For shame.
Look, Jeremy gets a pass because he's moved on to a higher level of his career. But what the fuck are you doing, Chris?
Dear God. We are 3 months past the draft, and this kind of stuff is happening.
Guarantee you none of my rookies are on that.
Look at this.
That is-
450.
The 4th round pick, Tyson Campbell.
So I want to rewind about four pods ago when we were doing drafts, and I think Jason Oweh is the best pick in that draft just based on price. Until that's changed.
Fixed. Until that's fixed.
I'm just saying, a 4th rounder being paid more than a 1st rounder. Guys, I mean, this is.
I feel
a
like
fun
there's
to
some
work
things
in.
happening under the table here.
Seriously, Eric's getting some fun treatment here. And I'm not gonna go ahead and guess what he's doing to get it.
In this league, players accept terrible contracts all the time.
That's true.
This is true.
And owners give terrible contracts all the time. Look at what we were paying half for tight ends.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I agree. I think it's a Dak team. I think the running backs are a little bit underrated.
I love the running backs.
I'm curious to see what happens with Penny this year. It's his last year. I think they have to pay Carson after this year too.
They just paid Carson.
They just paid Carson.
Mhm.
Okay, well, shit, I'm behind on things. Pardon me.
And Marvin Jones should do well with Trevor and Jacksonville for at least this year.
He'll do as well as you can on an absolute shit team.
Well, and that's the thing I don't get. So Marvin Jones should be okay with Trevor. Laviska Shenault should be okay with Trevor. DJ Shark should be okay with Trevor. Like,
I mean, for a best
everyone
ball
expect that
league,
Trevor's going to throw for 4,000 his first year and take care of everybody, or
I mean, with how crappy that defense looks like it's going to be, I mean, they're going to have plenty of opportunities to throw the ball.
that's true. I mean, on the other side of things, all the rookies had their highlight reel moments of week 1 of the preseason, so I'm not going to lose my mind about that. But Trevor's required his O-line to block for, I don't know, about 50, 55 seconds before he got that pass off. Anyways. But yeah, the IDP is going to be what carries this team. Burns, Garrett, Hicks, very solid on the DN side of things. Owe, once he gets his contract adjusted with the rest of the linebacking core, he's going to probably get about 200 a week from 180 to 200 a week from his defense. So as long as the offense can put up 100, he's going to be in most games. So I probably have him higher than you guys, and I'm okay with that.
I agree. That is not the team that you guys mentioned that I would have picked as the team that doesn't belong with the rest.
Then
unless I misheard.
No,
I can
that's
go over the
just
list
my
again for
opinion.
you.
Was Rams on the list?
It was.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the team that does not belong to me.
Okay. Well, you just volunteered yourself to talk about the Rams next. So I'll pull them up. You introduce why the Rams are suck and say all sorts of terrible things about Thomas.
I have this team as the one on the outside looking in on the legitimate contenders. So
That's
sixth,
going a
seventh
little
best team.
far. Well, I mean, oh really? Wow.
Okay. Well, never mind.
Please speak your
Retract all
mind.
the terrible
Brett.
things I just said about you.
Sure. Well, I mean, you've got Baker. That's fine. You've got one running back and two backups. So you're depending on Swift to have a good game every week, which he can do. Then you go down to wide receiver. You've got, Hollywood is fine when he's playing, and then you have a question mark for year 1 for Waddle. You've got nothing at tight end. So the offense of this team, I don't really see that much that's going to carry him week to week offensively. And if we scroll down to IDP, defensive tackle, defensive end, it's not the worst. He's got a couple contributors that you can hope for a sack from each week. Linebackers, he's got, it's just there's no position other than, going down and looking at Poyer at safety, who should put up a ton of points, but he's paying a lot. There's just no position here that I love, a stud player and love the depth at. He's very thin across every position and does not have a lot of high-end contributors.
Counterpoint. RJ, go.
He's got a lot of draft picks to trade away.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fair, but he hasn't done it yet.
Right. So I don't have him that high. I was looking at a list that was way early in our power
Here
rankings.
it comes.
No, I still had him. I still have him deep into this group, a lot deeper than the 11th team.
I think, and I'm sorry. Go ahead. You start, and then I will continue the defense campaign here. But I think it's a little bit weaker than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I see DJ Dallas doing well. He's probably going to be one of the return guys for that team. So he has pretty safe numbers. Gainwell probably going to contribute in the passing game. Swift, it does kind of feel like Swift is going to have to do something every week. I actually like Lynn Bowden as a third receiver. I think he'll do fine in Miami. Probably as a wide receiver 4. He's still going to get targets. He's pretty competent. He's played wide receiver and running back. I like Waddle. I like Hollywood. I think tight end is a necessity, but we're going to say that about every team until we get into the top 8. There's enough contributors at defensive tackle that somebody's going to put up numbers. Defensive end's awful. Need to trade for some. Linebackers, completely fine with Demario Davis. I don't mind the cornerbacks. Don't mind the safeties. So there's 2 positions that need to be addressed, but I think a lot of teams have those 2 positions that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think, again, I have more faith in Gross Matos and Hughes than you do. But I think Rams is taking advantage of the division he's in. None of the other three competitors are really a threat to beating him in this division, except for maybe the 49ers, who at this point is looking like doesn't have a quarterback. So that said, he's in a nice position to start with that may only get nicer, especially considering the number of rookies on that defense. Mike Hinton, I think Hilton is a good contract. I think that's going to – well, I'm sorry, good contract. I'm saying this a little bit sarcastically because paying any corner $7 million is not what you want to be doing.
He's a good player on a terrible contract.
Right. So he's got points on his defense. The offense is spread pretty thin. He's got $36 million in cap space. I think he's the team I see most likely to make a move to, if he addresses these two positions, adds probably one more depth piece at wide receiver and or running back, we might be having a different conversation. But that's going to require him mortgaging a good bit of either rookie capital or rookies he just acquired. So I think I agree. He belongs at kind of this 11 or 12, if not maybe slightly later range. But that said, because he is probably the best team in the NFC West, I think he's definitely in the heart of the playoff race. And we've had stranger things happen. And with two deep threats like Brown and Waddle, you could see 50-point games coming out of them during the playoffs, which just screw up everybody's projections.
Sure, I think he's a safe playoff team. But I mean, if you're looking at power rankings, it's a little different. But he's almost assuredly in that division of playoff team. You're right.
Yeah, but again, if you said plus or minus 5 in either direction, you'd say no. This is probably he's going to be in that range. So I could see kind of him going up to say 14. I can see, well, if I squint really hard and a lot of people get injured, maybe he ends up as a top 10 team. But makes me feel like we've got him in the right spot. All right. Let's see, Matt. Why don't you figure out who our next victim is?
All right, going to do a quick scroll here at a couple of them. Fairly confident in saying it's probably an NFC North team.
Well, that makes me feel nervous.
It's not you.
That makes me feel more nervous.
Why?
I don't know. Do the other NFC North teams have starting quarterbacks?
I do. Tyrod Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That is, in fact, a quarterback that is probably starting. Probably Packers here. That's my thought.
All right, give me a second to get to the Packers. Pardon me, my Excel has decided to crash at this point, so I'll go ahead and do this at the same time.
Jeremy's just kind of doing that thing where he bounces between wanting to contend and wanting to rebuild every year.
He does that with you guys too?
Not so much in the other leagues, but like in here, he very much he feels like he's constantly teetering. And so like he's got some very good pieces. Like he's got Lamar Jackson, he's got Nick Chubb, he's got Cooper Kupp, he's got, I don't want to say very good and Eric Ebron in the same sentence, but he's got Eric Ebron. And he's got a couple guys at the end that'll be passable. But outside of that and Jesse Bates, it's not a great shakeout.
Giving up on Willie Gay so quickly?
I mean, Willie Gay's good, but they just drafted another linebacker, and I'm not going to try and pretend I know what the fuck they're doing at linebacker in Kansas City anymore.
Good way to look at it. I'll jump in here. I think the offense scares me. You got Lamar and you got Chubb, and then what does Kupp look like? Is he the high volume guy he had been with Goff under Stafford, or just pushing the ball downfield, kind of change that up? One of these days, Jeremy's going to have to tell me where Pharaoh Cooper is hiding a member of his family that he keeps drafting him and holding him in every league that we're in. Cortland Sutton again, hopefully we're bouncing back. So the offense is definitely top 10. The defense leaves a few things to be desired, but I think he's got enough contributors there that things could work out. Granted, the fact that he has a $22 million Kerry Hyder and is still about $50 million under the salary cap is going to be a fun thing to watch him navigate during the year to see if he tries to absorb a few contracts to make a push, which again, early on in the season, we know he will, or if he starts taking on some bad contracts to, rebuild. But I think he's still got that flexibility to go either way on us because that's what Jeremy's all about.
I like this team. Quarterback solid. Running back's fine. He has Jamal Williams also, who is going to be a contributor this year. Amir Abdullah has a possibility of being a return guy in Minnesota. Let's see. He's
Scroll down a little bit to the linebackers.
Yes, sir.
Wide receiver. I like it. I think he's a little bit more stacked than you guys think. Cooper Kupp's fine. Cortland Sutton will be a fantastic 2. Let's see, who's this 3? This 3 can be a various number of people. Pharaoh Cooper probably will be the return guy in Jacksonville, so he'll get actual numbers. Ebron being backed up by Atkins isn't bad. Atkins is always going to be a decent goal line option in Houston. I like Ioannidis in Washington as a defensive tackle. He's actually going to be healthy this year, and after the position change, he's going to be a point monster at D tackle. I like the defensive ends. I don't like the prices, but the price for one of them, but whatever. Linebackers, a bunch of people I know who they are at cornerback, so I like they're at least competent. And I like the safeties. I like Gerard Wilson. I like Jesse Bates. I hope Malik Hooker actually can put up numbers in Dallas.
So now that I'm taking a closer look at this, I'm actually gonna adjust what I'm saying. This has nothing to do with the fact that Jeremy is apparently watching and not participating and taking that opportunity to complain rather than participate and defend his team. Sad to see it, especially from a commish who still has a first-round pick on a mid-contract. So
go do your job.
So as I look a little bit closer at this, really on the defense side, Devin Bush, again, is a decreased point total, but again was injured last year, but was a complete stud the year before. Willie Gay, again, like you said, it's going to be tough to figure out what they're doing in Kansas City at linebacker, but was a first-round linebacker in this league. Beyond that, you have other contributors along that. I really like what Chris Rumpf brings to the table in Los Angeles. And I really like the Tyquan Lewis pick the year before. So I think he's missing some of the big studs, but he's got strength in numbers on defense, and that's going to serve him well.
He's not going to have guys that will consistently put up 20, but he's going to have guys that consistently put up 15.
Yep. So again, but you can actually make a team work with that, especially at the end. All it's going to take is, Rumpf getting his 4 sacks at a different time, and Tyquan gets his 3 or 4. I won't pretend I know if Kerry Hyder is going to be any form of solid for Seattle, but again, I think the defense is better than I first gave it credit for. So, look, I'm in the toughest division in our league, and the Packers are one of the teams that make it as tough as it is. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think you guys covered it. I don't really have any more to add.
I appreciate that you said one of the toughest divisions because it is not the toughest. It is one of the toughest.
No, it's the toughest, but that's okay.
The AFC North would like to have a chat.
The AFC North?
Yes, the AFC North.
Well, agree to disagree. So let's talk about one of those AFC North teams. Let me go ahead and knock that team off the list. We'll talk about the team of the North that I think has had some bad luck hit them this year. And frankly, is going to have to recover, and that's the Ravens. They made the deal of the century, the heist of the century last year, grabbing James Robinson for a second-round pick. Looked like, oh dear God, they found a starting running back on a min contract that just threw up 240 points, and they don't have to pay this guy for 3 more years. And then they took Travis Etienne. So the quarterback position with Burrow is obviously in great shape. Robinson makes that take a hit, and they traded for Fournette to help stabilize that. But again, I think you're looking at best 2 RB2s. Can that work in this league? Absolutely, but you have to have scoring from other parts of your offense. I don't think anybody loved the Golladay landing in the Giants. Yes, the Giants were the one team that was going to pay him, but I don't think anyone looks at that and says that's a fantastic fit. Amon-Ra, again, hopefully lives up to his potential in Detroit, and it looks like some good things from camp so far. Ertz seems to be on his way out in Philly. And then we just move on to the defense, where we've got a lot of middle-of-the-road contributors, but none of the major studs here. I know that me mentioning Ravens first means that absolutely he's going to be in the Final Four of the AFC, just because he's going to pull another rabbit out of his ass like he does every year. But that being said, I don't know how he does it with this team right now. I think the defense isn't quite where it needs to be. I think the offense is missing some of the key pieces. I don't know if he has the ammo he needs to rebuild it while still remaining competitive. So feel free to disagree with me, but I would say I would actually have the Ravens being a less competitive team than the Packers.
So I'm still kind of in shock that you said a team from the AFC North that has had an unlucky offseason, and you said the Ravens. But we are here and on the Ravens, so I will talk about them.
So hold on. When you say that, what player on this team has had an overly lucky offseason?
No, I'm just saying there's been an even more unlucky team in that division.
Fair. Okay. Fair.
But we are on the Ravens, so we will talk about the Ravens because I do not want to distract us to another team. I like Burrow. I don't expect him to set the league on fire like everybody, I guess, assumes with all his new shiny toys. I think Fournette's still going to be a contributor. If you believe preseason games, Hill's probably going to lead the league in rushing. But that probably won't happen. He probably won't even make it off of a practice squad. Robinson's still going to be good. Is he going to be 239 points good? Probably not. But he's still going to be good. Callaway seems to be a pretty decent option in New Orleans because nobody else is healthy there.
He looked really good in the preseason game.
Yes, he did. Russell Gage is going to be the starting wide receiver too in Atlanta, so he's going to be productive. Galladay's probably going to be productive in New York. Jefferson's probably going to be a pretty decent wide receiver 3. St. Brown's probably going to battle for wide receiver 3 spot in Detroit and get, I don't know, 500-600 yards this year, maybe, if he's lucky. MVS is probably going to have another quality year. I like the tight ends. Ertz is going to be consistent. Durham Smythe, the kid from Miami, played all right with injuries last year. I like Swaim's landing spot in Tennessee. There's another tight end that's getting a lot more hype, and I just don't believe in. I don't believe it. I think he's the tight end that you want. Defensive tackle is pretty good. I don't know, $7.6 million on Vernon Butler, who probably won't put up more than 48 points this year. Whatever. Defensive ends are good. Linebackers are really good. Cornerbacks are good. Safeties are exceptional. So I think this is a good team. In my opinion, I think they're the second best team in that division, and they challenge the Bengals.
Matt, Brett, any other thoughts?
RJ pretty much took all the words out of my mouth. I think St. Brown probably does a little bit better than that. I really like that wide receiver room for him.
That's an awesome best ball receiver room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think that offense is, as long as Burrow can stay upright and be a quality quarterback this year, that is a fantastic offense. Because Ertz may be out in Philly, but he'll be in somewhere else if he is. And Zach Ertz
we'll
is a
trade him.
slouch. And if they don't trade him, he'll still be Zach Ertz and he'll still be on the Eagles. And then your biggest problem is your quarterback and not Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable for Ertz to still stay in Philadelphia, and him and Goddard both get like 700 yards and like, I don't know, 5-7 touchdowns.
Yeah, because I mean, like, who's the extent of wide receivers in Philadelphia outside Devonta Smith?
Right. Like
Jalen Reagor?
I still would even say Richard Rodgers is probably going to have like 300 or 400 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and he didn't even have a job at the beginning of last year.
All right, Brett, anything you want to add, or should we move on to the next one?
No, I think you guys covered it. Go for it.
Who's next? RJ, I think you're next up.
Okay. Do we want to stay in that division and keep it going?
Who do you think is next on your list, sir?
The Browns.
Browns.
They have a wide receiver who doesn't like surgery, apparently, nor to provide any production for his team. Chase Claypool, I don't know. Apparently, he lost a leg in preseason. Like, this is a solid team, but there's already a whole bunch of question marks. And
4 of his wide receivers are questionable. It's not even week 1.
right.
Well, to be fair, one of those is Golden State.
Right. I mean,
Fair.
Michael Thomas is definitely out for a while, but I think the reports on Claypool were that he's all right.
Yeah. Long term, yes. But this is a drastically better team if Golden Tate, Jarrell Casey, and Olivier Vernon find employment. But I think that does a little bit of damage to this team. Like, this is a solid team, but
One of the best tight end rooms.
a lot of things that have just gone wrong by no doing of the owner.
So again, I will say the balance of this is there are rumors that Russ may be allowed to do some light grilling and maybe some cooking this year. Corey Clement, I think, is in a good spot.
Probably for the first 9 weeks of the
I
year.
was about to say, we're 49ers fans, Mike. We know how Chef Russ cooks. He cooks for 8 weeks, and then he gets shut down, and they go to a run-first offense where he rarely ever gets to pass.
Right.
Well,
So now we know that the Browns' highest scoring quarterback is going to be Geno Smith in the playoffs. Now how does the team look?
Well, Zeke Elliott looks a lot better than a lot of the other running backs, and having that supplemented with Corey Clement and James White, I think, is going to be fine. Terry McLaurin can and probably will be putting up wide receiver 1 numbers this year with Michael Thomas. So again, I think that's quite solid. I completely agree with Brett. This may be the best tight end room in the league next to mine.
What's the obsession with Tyler Kroft? Why is everybody going crazy over him?
I'm not going crazy over Tyler Kroft. I'm going crazy over Dallas Goedert and Logan Thomas, because he's got Goddard, who is the heir apparent to Ertz and has already supplanted him in Philly, apparently, as well as Logan Thomas, who put up 173 and I think was a top 8 tight end last year, and he has him for less than $2 million.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, he also got paid in the offseason, right, for that performance?
Logan Thomas, 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I was just being an asshole when I said the Tyler Kroft thing.
Well, fair enough. Sometimes I can't decide.
used to it.
when you're being an asshole, when you're just trying to egg me on.
Hold on, I need to go look at tight end rankings. Okay, we're good.
All right. I think Richardson should be a good fit in Minnesota. I agree completely. If Casey and Vernon can find employment, this helps tremendously. But I think Montez Sweat and Trey Flowers is not a bad starting point. Granted, it's probably time to go add a third. I know that he's been trying to for most of the offseason, but it might be time to get a little bit more aggressive.
This is just very much the type of team that we should underrate in the beginning of the season, and then when the vets catch on, this team's going to be ridiculous by the end of the season.
Yeah,
especially if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, this is the team that, again, you rank around 10, and then come playoffs saying, "Oh dear God, can I avoid the Browns?"
Right.
Unless, of course, you're the Chargers, at which point you don't care who you play.
I'm going to have to play somebody with a badass team at some point. So
that's just unfortunately the way our teams are set up. All right. Any additional thoughts about the Browns?
No, I think I had this team ranked a little higher than you guys. I think I had
City
it in my
Cleveland
top
sucks
6, top
ass.
7, something like that.
That's fair. I don't like disagree with that mindset. I'm just, as of right now, I have them here, and I fully expect them to be 6th, 7th best team. Certainly like past some of the ones that I have over them that we've already talked about by midway through the season. It's just I do think the Michael Thomas thing hurts, and the fact that like Golden Tate hasn't like caught on to where he's going to be on a team and be productive in the beginning of the season. He'll catch on, like he'll get a job towards week 1 and then know the playbook and catch on by week 6.
I mean, I think the thing to keep in mind is that Browns isn't going to should not have a hard time making the playoffs with this roster. So the fact that Michael Thomas is out for a bunch of time doesn't really impact his ability to make the playoffs. And by the time playoffs start, he should have him back. So
I mean, there is the concern that you play half your games in the first 4 weeks. So if he catches a lot of losses to start off, that could spell a lot of problems for him.
Or he'll just be one of the 7th seed that nobody actually wants to have to play week 1.
Yeah, very possible.
So let's see here. He's got Bengals and Steelers. Then he's got Jets and Ravens, Texans and Jags, and Titans and Chiefs. So let's imagine worst case scenario. He goes 4-4 there.
Starts off 1-1 in week 1. Probably, I don't know. We'll say 1-1, and just for worst case scenario in week 2, probably going to win both matchups in week 3, and let's say falls to Kansas City in week 4.
Okay, so let's say he goes 4-4 in those first 4 weeks, just for argument's sake.
Sure.
Colts are tanking, 5-4. Giants are tanking, 6-4. Tough game against the Bengals. Tough game against the Washington football team. Steelers are tanking. Dallas is tanking. Eagles are tanking. He's at 9 wins. 9 should get him in the playoffs. He picks up one other win from a game against either the Baltimore games, an upset against the Bengals or Washington football team. He's going to be a 10+ win. So even if things go sideways to him early, he's got an easy path to 10 wins.
Okay, fair point.
All right. So we're at that point of the process where there's one other team in my division and 6 teams that I see as true competitors. So who wants to pick next?
Ooh, I'll go. The Dolphins.
Oh,
Interesting. You, sir, like to live dangerously.
yeah.
I agree.
The defense is a lot of players, a very, very large amount of players.
The That's
But
a
is-
best ball defense.
Is also depending on, yeah, but these aren't like it's best ball, but to a point where like
Might be excessive to the
you are
point where
dangerously playing best ball because you have a lot of bad players that you're just banking on all of their good weeks not lining up with each other. So if he starts running and like his highest scoring linebacker is a free agent, his highest scoring defensive end is a free agent. His offense looks pretty good. He's got 2 great running backs, assuming Barkley comes back and does 80% of what Barkley does. His QBs are, in fact, QBs in the National Football League. He's got 2 of them, probably, maybe. But that defense is just not there. It's a lot of players that you're depending on, and really you're depending on like Gregory Rousseau and Kuntz to come in and like be guys for you, basically.
I mean,
Which
with
would
how
be
thin
scary to
defensive
me.
end, I mean, with how thin defensive end is in this league in general, the fact that he's got, yeah, I mean, he needs 2 of these, 9 guys to get a sack every week to be getting an acceptable number of points from his defensive end position every week. And with those names there, that's not going to surprise me.
I think defensive end got a lot worse with Alden Smith getting released, but
Yeah.
I like Gregory Rougeau. Muhammad Al-Kadeen has carved out like some role in the rotation in Indy. John Franklin Myers has done the same on the Jets. Randy Gregory's probably just gonna get a decent amount of snaps. I don't hate it. Like the rest of the guys, I'm not thrilled with, but you're probably not gonna find better. You're only gonna find comparable, like through the free agents that are available right now.
It's not bad. It's just his defense is what puts him below any of the other teams for me. Because like those linebackers are a mess. Those defensive ends are a mess. No, homie, he's got 1 guy that scored 80 points that's on a roster.
So like,
And Ernest Jones is going to step into a pretty good role.
yeah, we were all fighting for Ernest Jones in the draft. Harvey Lange is not going to do anything in New England. He's going to get buried. All right, I agree. Linebackers are terrible.
I mean, but linebacker is certainly more easily addressed than defensive end.
Yeah,
Right, but
much more
do agree
cheaply
with that.
addressed.
Like that's my thing though, is it hasn't been addressed. So until it's addressed, he's going to be below all the other teams for me.
Sure. I mean, I think this is a fine team to have next. I mean, I would have had him below Browns for sure. But
So since the offense is so good, do we just say like get rid of Caleb Huntley, get rid of like the name guys, even like Asi, and just add more no name linebackers and defensive ends?
that's
Hope they
ball.
pop every week.
Probably. I mean, like you're cut some of these guys that you have, like Montravius Adams. He ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah, he probably won't. I barely even know who he is, and I'm.
He was bad in Green Bay, so he's probably gonna be bad in New England, and at least like a much lesser snap count total.
Doubt he makes the 53.
Yeah, like I don't know, like just start chopping guys from your offense and really pray that you hit some guy in free agency at the end.
Is it just me, or did this team look a lot better 2 months ago?
It looks really good if you look at those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5-ish blocks of players. But once you start getting past those special teams, it gets dicey. But you also had I'm guessing you probably had the rose tinted glasses everybody does in the off season with defensive players. It's like, okay, this guy's he's shown flashes. Now he's on a new team. He's gonna bust out, and then it's like, wait, he's still the same dude that just occasionally shows flashes.
I mean, if you were going to pick a side of the ball to be strong on and have any, I mean, it's hard to add offense during the season. You're not finding offensive players on waivers that are actually going to put up points. You can do that for IDP and best ball.
I found an all-pro wide receiver in waivers last year.
It happens. It's
I'm
very
afraid to
rare, but
ask.
It happens.
I'm afraid to
Travis
ask who you mean.
Gunnar Olszewski.
Or Gunner, yeah.
All right.
He's not really a
16.
wide receiver, though.
Nobody was still an all-pro punt returner.
He was something.
All right. I hate to talk about a team in my division, but I think they're the clear next pick here.
Yep.
The Bears.
Yep.
The Gooseless Bears.
I'm glad that
Now-
our top 6 is pretty much like a consensus.
Like, this is
It's not hard.
no. I mean, let's just
Top
I mean,
6 teams are a little bit stacked.
hmm So this team is also stacked, but not as stacked in comparison. So I kind of view them as like the team, like just outside of the like legitimate contenders, the ones that should expect a championship.
I think of this team as the oh god damn it team, because you've got good cheap contributors, which I'm probably responsible for getting on this team in the first place, and guys like Tannehill, Hunt, Connor, Singletary, Beckham, a good number of the defensive players as well. But you also have the primary beneficiary of if things go sideways. Like if things go sideways in Cleveland, Rashard Higgins is probably going to benefit. If Mixon can't pull his shit together, Samaje Perine is who's rumored to be next in line for a big role. Going to the defensive side of that conversation, I mean, the DNs are a lot more solid than I think we're given credit for.
Oh wow. Yeah.
It's a good group.
Yeah, like the defense is going to be a pain in the. So again, Andy's done a good job of keeping this team intact while molding it into his own, adding
Yes.
pieces in good spots, and keeping with the overall idea of the team that let's keep it to talent throughout. Don't overpay for any spot.
Yeah.
It still looks like a Goose team. Good job, Andy. Goose
Yeah.
teams are good teams.
I think I don't know. Like I don't want to like applaud somebody for like not screwing up a previous owner's team because like it's his team and he can do what he wants. But like he certainly has improved on it. Like there was like one or two trades that all of us probably looked a little bit at in the off season, but like now that we see how the team's been constructed, it looks really good. The Samaje Perine pickup is like probably. Oh no, that wasn't a pickup. Where did he get him? He didn't get him in the 2017 auction.
So
He got him.
Either way, like
Won an auction. He won him at auction
this year.
this season. Yeah,
Okay, that
March
Now-
18th, 2021.
okay. Now that we look at it, that was probably one of the better auction pickups. Like I don't know if he's going to be fantastic, but he's a great handcuff to like Joe Mixon. So like as your or running back 4, that's fantastic. So like I don't know. I scan through this team and I see like one player that I'm like, oh, get rid of it and improve. Like get a better tight end than Jacob Harris. But like, yeah, this team's really good.
Outside of that one Lawrence trade, it's been pretty solid. That's the only move of his that I would take back.
Was that like it was a defensive end for a linebacker, right?
I can't remember the exact details, but it was giving up a really good DeMarcus Lawrence, like on a great contract, for like a middle of the road player in
I
another
think
IDP position.
that was before his time, I think.
No,
Really?
that was Andy. Yeah, no, Goose was quite upset in my DMs about that one.
Mm.
Either way, I think the team looks exceptional
Oh yeah,
right
no.
now.
he did a very good job of keeping the core of it together, but sucks to have Cole Beasley on your team.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize.
Hey,
that.
I mean, it's in fairness, he's not going to be on the team for very long. He'll retire, right?
That's true. Well, I don't think he'll retire. I think he'll get cut and then throw a tantrum, and he'll be stuck with a $5 million player that's not actually playing football anymore.
Speaking of throwing a tantrum, it's fantastic to have Washington football team join us in this.
Oh my God, that transition.
How are you guys?
What's up?
He's just here for the trades.
Sorry, we're covering the top 5 teams, so we already talked about your team. You missed it.
Yeah, you were like 11.
I'm really starving for talent over here. Please send all the trades you can. I need help.
All right. Well, I guess it's unavoidable at this point. We've got the Bengals, the Chargers, the Redskins, the
Football
Vikings,
team.
and the Falcons.
Football team.
I guess we'll talk about the football team too.
So that's our top 6: Bengals, Dolphins, Vikings.
No, Bengals, Chargers, football team, Falcons, Vikings.
I feel like you have. I feel like RJ has to
I'm not
take over
talking
moderation here. I think the rest of us are a little biased.
I'm not like going in order. I was just throwing them out there.
Okay, you said the Dolphins, and they weren't on the list anymore. But
You're
if
right.
somebody
I
else
misspoke.
feels
Oh.
they're still top 6. I spoke about the Dolphins.
Oh,
So-
so we did have the Bears in the top 6, and I'm just terrible. Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
So
All
I'm going
right.
to go ahead and fall on the sword here because of so much uncertainty about my team and put myself first here.
No,
Oh,
I
you
wouldn't.
silly bitch.
I wouldn't do that.
I mean, Chris isn't here. I think we talk about Chris first.
Yeah, we shit on Chris first.
Okay.
No disrespect to Chris. Like I
All
do
the
think
disrespect to Chris.
I think the AFC North, like those top 3 teams, might, as much as like we have those 3 and like 3 NFC North teams, I think this division's going to be a little bit more like competitive in the sense that like we don't know the division winner. So like I would have Bengals as the bottom one of that group. I do kind of have Vikings like
Close behind
a tier above the other NFC North teams.
And I mean, we all heard today that Justin Fields will have his time, but now is Andy Dalton's time.
Oh yeah, and he also is the one going into his doubleheaders without a quarterback.
Every team goes into the season saying that they're going to take it slow with the new QB, and then they lose 4 straight games, and what do you know? The rookie's in. It always happens that way. It's going to happen. It's stupid to think otherwise.
Yes, but if they lose 4 straight games with Andy Dalton, guess what? That means that Chris has played half of his season without a quarterback.
True. Also true.
Let's see. Let's also take a look at the Bears. I want to dig into this. The Bears starting 4 games. So they play the Rams at the Rams week 1, probably an L.
Bears
They
or
played-
Bengals?
The actual IRL Bears.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like trying to project out, does this like 04 travesty of okay, just throw the fucking rookie in there and feed him to the wolves happen? So they play the Rams, probably a loss. Week 2 is Bengals at home. I think the Bears win that game. Because I think the Bears defense will be disruptive enough to keep Joe Burrow running for his life. And Andy Dalton gets that against the Bengals buff. Week 3 at Browns, loss. Week 4 versus Lions. I'm confident in saying the Bears win versus the Lions.
I think the Bears have 2 competent-ish quarterbacks that are veterans in the league, and I think out of any of the rookies, he's the least likely to just get the nod. So I regardless of like what the schedule is, I don't see them changing course and just like panicking and putting Justin Fields in.
I think he's more likely than like a Lance, but
Oh no, I think everybody is more likely than him, but I also think like some of the other teams are probably like in a better situation where they won't.
oh yeah,
Like San Francisco is going to be good regardless of like their quarterback situation, so they're just going to stick with Jimmy. Like
Mhm.
I expect that to happen, But like,
You hope.
if Chicago, I do hope that is for sure. But like with Chicago, if Andy Dalton's a starter and he does terrible, I think that there's a possibility that they just go with Nick Foles because he doesn't have anything that's hampering him right now. Before they give it to a rookie, regardless of how like fantastic he does, I think he's still third in the pecking order. Like, you know, for worst case scenario situations.
Didn't the Bears give up their first round pick next year to move up and get Justin Fields?
Well, sure, but everybody's living in this dream world where they're going to keep their rookie on the bench for a whole year, let him start week 17 for the first time, and then he's going to come out and win MVP the next year. And that's what Chicago thinks they're going to do because they have competent quarterbacks. Because
So
I think they have the next Pat Mahomes.
let's just kind of call this what it is. Justin Fields got drafted by Chicago because the GM and Nagy are playing for their jobs. I think that's pretty clear. So if it comes down to Andy Dalton versus Justin Fields for who's going to start to keep your job, at some point, if you're about to go 1-3, you're going to put the rookie in to try and save your job and say, hey, yeah, we're having some tough times, but at least I drafted our quarterback of the future, so don't get rid of me.
I
So-
think the GM's safe. I think Matt Nagy might be gone, and I think the GM could step in and say, hey, don't you go fucking ruining our quarterback for the next guy. Because they're going to look at what happened with Dwayne Haskins and how fucked that situation was. And it's not a one-to-one comparison, but, like, it's... Like, I think the GM there is probably safe. I would be shocked if Matt Nagy's the head coach of the Bears next year, unless they make some miracle playoff run.
All right. I disagree, but that's fine. I think the receiving core is quite solid. Travis Kelce is enjoyable. And then that linebacking core, I think, is a little bit of more shine, more polish than performance.
It's a little thin.
And the Neil Hunter back's going to be quite good. So the defense is going to be fine. Apparently, this is the Bengals sponsored by the Steelers defense.
That's
but-
not a bad strategy.
No,
It's really
there
not.
have been worse ways to put together a defense. So yeah, assuming that, again, what Brett said earlier about if you've got Michael Thomas, you're not worried about the first 4 games, you're worried about the last 4 games. If you've got Justin Fields this year, you're worried more about the last 4 games than the first 4 games. It's a question of, does Chris have enough firepower to get himself there? And I'd say he does, assuming the rest of his team turns out how he hopes it will. Could things go sideways and really screw him in the NFC North? Sure. But I don't think they will, and I think this is definitely going to be one of the teams that we're facing down in the Final Four.
He has the entire Denver Broncos defensive tackle line.
I think he's actually going to be all right at linebacker because I think Ingram gets a position change in the next batch that comes in like a week or 2.
My biggest concern for Chris outside of the Justin Fields thing is he has a reasonable number of guys who are, I think it's actually just 2 of them, that are key contributors to his team that play for the Minnesota Vikings. And I would not be shocked if that team has to sacrifice a game this season due to COVID issues, given the general stupidity that seems to be coming out of that locker room. I don't think it's likely, and I don't think Chris should do anything about it as an unbiased third party. But the chance is notably higher with that team, to me, than any other team in the league.
I haven't kept up on the stupidity that's been coming out of Minnesota.
It's mostly from the quarterback position.
Quarterback position, and a couple of the like Adam Thielen was, I don't know what his current status is, but he did make some comments to start out that were very much like, I have to do my own research style, which Nick Bosa did the same thing, and then Nick Bosa got vaccinated. So Adam Thielen may actually be vaccinated, and it could totally be a non-factor. But yeah,
Okay.
Kirk Cousins also wanted to do his own research and has not talked to the team doctors about the vaccine.
yes, and he wants to invest in plexiglass. And Kellen Mond is in the same boat. So,
All right.
go Texas.
Absolutely. We're on to the top 4 here. And, well, looks like football team dropped out and I have to add him back in. Damn it, Sean.
Can you hear me?
Always gonna do nice things.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All righty.
I had not realized you had dropped out of the stream, so apologies for that.
Nope,
But anyways,
no
this
worries.
is good timing because we're down to what we have as the top 4 teams, and all 4 of them are on the pod. So we've got the Vikings, the Chargers, the Falcons, and the Washington football team. RJ, who are we talking about first?
Who's
All
four?
right.
Who's 2, who's 1? That's what I want to know.
You want to know who they are in order?
How do you guys rank the top 4?
I have mine: Vikings, Washington, Chargers, Falcons.
Ooh, get fucking Brett.
But
in
this
top
is-
to bottom or bottom to top?
Vikings 4, Washington 3, Chargers 2, Falcons 1.
My apologies, Brett. Mike.
I was going to say,
Get fucked.
And my prediction for like who actually plays in the Super Bowl is completely different. That's just my power rankings.
You're such a fucking dick sometimes, I swear to God.
Because I don't think it ends up like complete
Chalk.
to the yeah.
No
But
chalk.
first team I would say is Vikings. You're splitting hairs with these 3, and I think the only thing is question mark at quarterback. Just if we don't have a Watson, there is a drop off to Tyrod.
slight.
I'd say it's a little bit more than slight.
I wasn't being sarcastic at all.
Not even a little bit.
Does Tyrod have both lungs?
Oh, jeez.
For now.
That's fair. But other than that, there is not anything that like stands out that's like, oh, this team should be, lower. I love Austin Eckler. I think that's the best contract in this league, and I think he's, everybody should be scrambling to get him because he's based on that contract. He's the most valuable player in this league. I don't know. Do you want me to roster bait over somebody else's roster? This team's amazing, and like I'm gonna have to say that 3 more times.
No, I mean, I think that at this point we got to focus on weaknesses. I think you started out well. It's the uncertainty with Watson is the big wart that moves me down to 4th in this conversation because I don't have a stud quarterback to bring to the party. Hopefully Tyrod can get me there, but we'll see how long that lasts. If Watson spends a year on the exempt list, which some are calling for him to do right now, especially if child trafficking is somehow involved in this process, then yeah, I'm in some rough waters there. Bateman's my rookies are having some injuries. Bateman having some issues as well as Kwity Paye. Ronnie Perkins, again, not necessarily having a defined position at this point. I would say of the top 4 teams, I'm showing the most warts right now. None of these teams are necessarily in a bad shape, and we're not going to know who's getting screwed by the injury bug until probably week 4 of the season. But that said, if you're trying to align the most risk to a team right now, it's aligned to me.
And I think that's purely Deshaun Watson. Players always have off the field issues. It takes a season or 2 for something to come down the line, but the severity of what Watson's being accused of, I think that's him alone on a team can cause a team to fail.
Yep, I personally am not touching him anywhere because I really do think he ends up not playing another snap in the NFL.
I hope so.
Yeah, if even a fraction of the accusations are accurate, like this is a man that is a serial abuser, and like this is, I don't know, like the outside the Watson thing, it's pretty nice across the board. There's really not any holes that I see. Your team's kind of like mine, where, well, you're not as bad at wide receiver as I am. But it's pretty much chalked down to like 3-ish guys in Metcalf, Judy, and Shepard, and then probably like split between Shepard and Bateman, assuming Bateman comes back healthy and Shepard takes a chunk out because of Galladay and the other additions.
Well,
like-
Roberts is like a nice floor because he's a return guy. So like that's a great guy to have as like your sixth, and like David Morris still battling a losing battle to Terrence Marshall, but still battling for that wide receiver 3. So like obviously a wide receiver 4 is going to get some type of production. So like he's not terrible to have either.
Yeah, but also having DK Metcalf helps a lot for 11-ish games.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I think it's one of those that we're splitting hairs with these teams. But the hairs he's just to split with the situation Sean's in right now. So I think that's either going to clarify itself positively or negatively before the start of the season. I don't think Goodell is going to start the year with that being one of the leading stories in the league. But again, I'm not sure which way that's going to go right now. It's leaning one direction, but you asked me 3 weeks ago, it was leaning the other direction. So more to come on that one.
Goodell's done stupider things.
That's for sure.
And he'll do stupider things yet.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pick the next team here because I just got myself eliminated. And I'm going to go by a team that I think was a much better team at the start of the postseason than they may be sitting on right now.
How dare you?
Oh, I thought it was me.
I thought it was me. Oh,
So
I need to go get a drink. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit back and listen to this. This isn't my opinion. I don't feel like you should move Falcons from that lofty position because he proved it last year. But go ahead. I genuinely look forward to this.
we're splitting hairs. So at this point, we're talking about risk. So from the quarterback position, Kyler Murray is a star. 400 points from the quarterback position is something you aspire to. That said, the NFC West continues to get tougher. So what is going to be asked of him from a game management as well as a win-loss perspective is going to change. So I think those numbers come down a little bit. Etienne is probably taking a large passing role, but I think we're seeing steps back in the other 3 running backs production. I think this becomes more of a committee than it had been last year, which becomes challenging. Now we get to the receiving room. This is a fantastic receiving room. But is Debo the 1 or the 2? And what does that mean? Does Calvin really get a step back with Julio gone? And what does it look like with now Pitts being a feature point in the offense? And, okay, Godwin's back. Great. What does a full season with Antonio Brown and Mike Evans look like? So I think, again, if we're talking about these top 4 teams, we're splitting hairs. And if we're able to inject a bit of risk into the offense, the DN position is not, I think, where Brett wants it to be or others want it to be. And then the linebacking core will survive because it's got a good set of linebackers by committee. But we're probably talking about the next team with the most risk associated with the players, I would say.
to piggyback off of what you said off the wide receivers, just my personal opinion, I think that most of the wide receivers he has, they all have a chance of taking a rather significant step back this year. and by some of the trades that he sent me, I think he believes the same thing. I just see Parker's always at injury risk. Ridley, obviously, with that offense, I mean, that's always hit or miss with Matty Ice. Debo, I've never liked Debo, honestly. Godwin, again, it's just a crowded room to be in. And Crowder is always an injury risk, and he's hit or miss. He's really just it's hot flashes with him. Being a Bills fan, having seen him. D end again with the trades that he sent me. Sorry, I was reading the comment. D ends. I know that with the trades that he sent me, he's not happy.
How many trades have I sent you? Like one?
For that trade.
You've sent me 2, and both relate to either D end or wide receiver.
Well, I mean, you're always trying to peddle Hill and Diggs.
Well, yeah, I'm always
constantly
dangle them in front of people, see what I can get.
I mean, I'll tell you how many counter offers I've gotten.
Be stupid not to.
You know, I can get you guys a room at a Holiday Inn for pretty cheap if you need it.
I don't know. I see a lot of his guys that had pretty significant years last year taking a step back this year.
I'm so ready to get fucking grilled on my offensive players. It's going to be beautiful.
It's all right. It all came together great. If it doesn't come together great again, at least it did once.
I'm still mad.
My prediction is I beat Chargers in the Super Bowl with Kamara having a 7-touchdown performance.
My prediction, pain.
I don't have enough alcohol for that. I'll have to start stocking up again. I kind of echo the same ideas with not the running backs, the wide receivers, and especially Kamara. I'm terrified of what's going to happen in New Orleans, especially if Sean Payton gets in his dumbass white head about how Taysom Hill is some semblance of a quarterback. But yeah, Debo's definitely the 2 in San Francisco, or I guess the 3 if you want to put Kittle at the 1. Ayuk's the guy from everything we've seen so far. And, you know, Debo's kind of like made of glass, which sucks, but it is what it is. We're not going to pretend to understand what the fuck's going to happen in Atlanta, but I am confident in thinking Calvin Ridley does not put up 270 points. Godwin will be interesting. Jamison Crowder, the New York Jets, spooky. Yeah, I mean, and DNs they're players.
I mean, you know, the only way I would defend, especially my wide receivers, is just saying, you know, I mean, they all don't have to have good weeks every week. It feels like a decent number of pretty good options where at least 2 of those guys should have a pretty solid week every week.
Right. I think the concern is that these aren't guys that have those big weeks. They have okay weeks.
Yeah,
True.
They have
number of
good
decent
wide
guys.
receiver
You're
2
not gonna
weeks.
have those flashes in the pan.
Yeah. Like they'll have weeks where they go off, but it won't be to the same consistency they did before. I will go on record now and say Deebo Samuel will score in your lineup 4 times this season.
I'll take the over on that.
Okay.
I mean, that just means he was healthy for 4 games. I'll take that.
Does that mean we have a prop bet?
I don't care.
Podcast problem.
I'll buy Brett a beer if he goes over 4, and Brett will buy me a beer if he goes under 4. How about that?
It's your turn to come visit me, though.
Trust me, I'm planning on it.
Because I sure as shit. I was just about sure as shit. I'm not coming back to Texas.
No, negative. I may be house shopping across the states soon.
So, since we are on this team, I think this is a fantastic team. Could be better at defensive end, but
just wait and see whether Aquara switches before we decide how bad it is at defensive end.
How much are you going to cry if he switches to linebacker?
I mean, if I don't know,
We need to send more Pappy.
It's gonna suck because I overspent to get him, and that's why it's really gonna hurt. But I don't mind having an outside linebacker who has a shot to get a couple sacks in a week because those guys are nice to have in a best ball league.
Nice.
Right. So I mean, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world as long as he still produces.
Now,
But
let's see, Brett.
I'd
It's
much
always
rather him
nicer
at defensive end.
when they're defensive ends.
I mean,
The big thing that sticks out to me is the lack of depth at tight end. But the other team in the NFC that we haven't talked about has the same lack of depth at tight end, but
Not everybody can beat me, RJ.
not
it's
Darren Waller.
I've been softly efforting, but
It's only one starter slot. Who needs
Yeah.
it?
Flex spots, boy.
I don't know.
If
Would
you
you
got your
rather
tight end in a flex spot, you're not winning games.
have Etienne or Hawkinson?
Probably Hawkinson for this season.
Yeah.
Hawkinson if we're trolling.
I don't know if you guys remember my opinion on Etienne during the draft. I think I talked about him quite extensively.
Yep.
Mike, I think you and I have different ideas of how bad this Jaguars team is going to be.
No, I think it's a collective set of good talent that's trapped under Urban Meyer in the NFL, and I think that's going to be a real problem for them. I think Urban prefers a two-back system, so I think both Etienne and Robinson will score, but I don't think necessarily as strong as anyone hopes. It's kind of a question of whether Jacksonville recognizes that Urban Meyer is a dumpster fire of a NFL head coach in one season, two, or if it takes a full three.
Now, see, this is what you do with TJ Hawkinson.
You fire him out
You move him out to the slot,
Why are we talking about TJ Hawkinson?
and you
because he traded
change
TJ
the
Hawkinson for the
name
107, which is now Travis Etienne.
on the back of his jersey to say Cup,
Mhm.
and he will be huge.
All right, so Brett, because I am a huge dick and picked you to not finish first,
No,
I think
that's
we're
fine.
down to
You didn't give
Hold
me
on.
the curse. I'm okay with that.
Before we move on, I wanna tip my hat to him one more time. He picked up Phillip Rivers when none of you guys were paying attention. I saw it when there was 9 hours left, debated on outbidding, but I said screw it. I didn't.
Oh
wanna-
no, it's
I don't-
Phillip Rivers.
I didn't want to put Ian Book on taxi. Which no, I just for like the previous championship team to just bolster their quarterback group with a guy that has a non-zero chance of coming out of retirement. I think it was a great move.
Oh, you.
Brett should be very afraid if he has Phillip Rivers starting at quarterback for him. Things have gone very wrong.
No, that just means
I mean, that's like how
is
I
it
would feel
worse
if I
than
had
having Tyrod Taylor starting for you?
Yes, it is.
We'll see. So, Brett, why don't you do us the honor of picking the team who will be losing in the Super Bowl this year?
So who are my? I got two options.
You have
It's
two
me and
options,
the
and they haven't
football
been on this
team.
podcast.
Well, I mean, God, do I? Who do I give the curse to? I'm obvious. Let's talk about Sean. Let's talk about Washington football team.
Oh, thank you.
I'll let Matt have it. He needs it. He needs it after last Super Bowl.
Matt loves going over my team, and he's been wrong every year.
I didn't see you in the Super Bowl last season, Sean.
Oh no, you're right. I saw only a handful of points from you though.
Well, you went undefeated until you got beaten in the championship game, right?
No, I got beat. Oh gosh, like week 11 or something. I had one loss.
Pulling up the schedule now. 15-1 schedule.
All right, so while you're pulling up the schedule, I'll talk about this team. Tampa quarterback room is not a bad thing to have. So he's fine at quarterback. Chris Carson, Dalvin Cook, Zach Moss. I mean, he's only going to start one. And
Miles
yeah,
Skipping Gaskin. Damn.
I think that's going to be more of a timeshare than everyone else does. So
I do too, but for the time being, we have to acknowledge that he's the starter.
All right, fair. So I think he's going to have no trouble getting one and probably two starts from a running back position. Diggs, Hill, and Juju, probably the best top three in the league. Hunter Henry, that signing spot is pain, but
RIP.
is still probably a middle of the road tight end one, considering our setup. It's defense that I start to worry. DeMarcus may not be what he used to be. Yannick, I don't know what the Raiders are going to be.
He's bounced around to so many teams. I don't even know if he knows how to play football anymore.
So you've got Yannick, you've got Farrell, you've got Max Crosby. All three good DNs. Do they try an NASCAR package and line the three up together? Do they try and do two at a time and have the third rotate in? Who's that third person out? I don't know.
You've got to keep Yannick on the edge, in my opinion. Farrell would kick inside, if anything. But that's just my 2 cents.
That's my thought as well. But again, I'm wrong in saying it, but at times I feel that I'm smart, that we're smarter at football than Chucky. I know we're not, but that said, sometimes we'll see moves from Mike Mayock and Chucky that make me scratch my head and say, wait, how did you win a Super Bowl? But that being said, I know that I'm not the football mind that he is. And then the back seven of the defense, safeties are fantastic. The middle, not so much. So, again, the offense is going to put up 200 to 240 points a week, especially at the back end of the season. So the question is going to be, can you consistently put up 300 points to challenge this team? And I think
I'm still just a little aghast that you'd pick my team before you'd pick this team.
Yeah,
I'm a little upset, just given his linebackers and his defensive ends. Other than DeMarcus Lawrence, the offense is loaded, absolutely loaded, but defensively there's just a lot of gaps at the two most important positions.
Linebacker's kind of icky. Nuoso will be scoring well this year, but other than that, like the rest of them just don't.
Van Ginkel's going to be a starter in Miami.
Perry starting middle as well. Yeah.
No, I mean, and I stand by the position because, frankly, he's
Matt Milano has fallen off.
This image does not spark joy.
Milano just got a huge contract.
Yeah, but Milano wasn't what Milano was 4 years ago when he was top 5 dynasty linebacker.
And again, you're splitting hairs with these teams, and the way I split hairs was based off of risk. I think the offense is very low risk outside of Hunter Henry, and the defense has enough shots at the apple that he's going to have starters where he needs them. And frankly, he's got enough production coming from that offense that the defense doesn't need to do a lot on a week-to-week basis.
Oh, when you break it down, it's still an above-average defense, well above average.
Well, yeah, that's why he's in the top 4. But still, the linebackers are gross. The cornerbacks they're cornerbacks, so they don't really matter. But like, there's no guys there that are like nobody there has a chance of doing kicker punt returns. Like these are just straight cornerbacks. So
I like Witherspoon being the nickelback in Seattle. Like I don't think that makes him a 200-point cornerback. I guess he's getting some run at nickelback. Like
he's gonna get torched.
Enough to where it's competent.
Yep.
He's gonna get fucking torched. He's not even gonna tackle people.
I'm just saying that's a position that would give him some type of quality production at cornerback. Not to say he's going to be good at it.
It'll be something.
As a side note, does anyone want J.J. Arcega-Whiteside?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll take him for free and just mail him over.
There he is. Kaboom.
It's the worst that could happen.
But speaking of things that need to be mailed over, whoever has that championship trophy, Falcons, let's go ahead and make sure you've got.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Address.
He has my address, I think.
I'm not washing it out first. Champagne. We've been having bowls of cereal.
As long as Ted
You've
been
got 17, 18 maybe more weeks to add to that stench before you have to ship it over to Matt.
Oh boy. Can we just roast my offense already, please?
Well, we are down to one.
Do we have to?
The
You don't
last-
have to do anything except for jack off my tight end room, because that is beauty.
Yeah.
How did I end up as the fourth team? God damn it, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. That's who you have to blame.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's not Deshaun Watson, I'm better than all three of your teams. But
Yep.
that being said,
Maybe.
Well, you know, the thing that gets me about Chargers here is how badly, Matt, you wanted to sell some players and accumulate some draft picks, and you have rookies here that aren't necessarily going to contribute as much as, you know, you could have sold those picks for players. So you're a super competitive team. So taking a guy like Devontae Smith, where, you know, I don't know, for that pick, I feel like you could have gotten more points this year. So it's a long-term strategy, but I feel like you could have fired your shot a little more strongly to
but does he
contend.
need to? He's
Oh,
the
I
number one
tried.
team.
I tried with 111. Trust me, but I tried. But if that's your one rookie you're taking away that isn't going to contribute from my big four, I'll take that.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Jalen Phillips. I don't know Jalen Phillips, but I mean, rookie defensive ends. I don't know.
So my biggest issue with this team is we need to start two receivers. So it's Ayuk and who? Is it Devonta on a weekly basis that we're expecting as a rookie to be the consistent number two starter at the receiver position? Because you only need to start one running back, and the rest are going to go into flex. Understood. But a lack of a more consistent number two receiver is concerning.
can I just say that I hate Philly wide receivers. Holy shit.
Same.
I think
Oh.
Philly hates Philly wide receivers.
I mean, the last couple good draft picks for Philly was what? D-Jax and Jeremy Maclin.
Oh, trust me, I didn't want to take Devontae Smith there.
And
That
plus
was
you
I
got-
have
you
to
got
take Devontae Smith
Kurt
there.
Center, which is a big question mark.
The last good wide receiver they drafted was Chris Carter.
Then Gesicki and Tanyan, I think, will serve as a tight end one collectively, and maybe the other will start a total of 2 to 3 times in a flex position. Buckner's a difference maker at the tackle. Reddick getting that position change is massive for the D end room.
And he's going to keep up that same production,
Yep.
I would imagine.
Linebacker
I
is
see Buckner declining a lot this year because the Indianapolis D line is nothing like San Fran, so he's going to be eating double teams like crazy.
He did
He
that in
was-
San Francisco.
he put this up in Indy last year.
Oh, I just no. I don't see 204 happening again. I don't see Ayuk going.
They just added
194.
Quiddy Pay as a first round pick. So Sean, just go sit in the corner. Linebacking core should be just as good. So again, I think it's you can nitpick the defense. I think that's for sure. I think the number 2 receiver is probably the biggest weakness that needs to be sorted out here. But that said, it's not a bad spot to be starting from. And from the overall risk perspective, I can squint and see this being the least risky of the top 4 teams. That said, I could also see, I don't know. I can't see this team losing the division. So Matt's going to be in the playoffs. It's a matter of how far he goes.
Defense
Well,
good.
that's probably the same for all 4 teams. And once you get that far, it's just a roll of the dice to see what actually is going to happen week to week.
The other thing to add to this is a really young team.
Mhm.
I hate to give him props, but across the board, he's got young talent everywhere. So
Demarcus
though
Robinson
I don't
is my
see him making the Super Bowl this year. I think he falls short in the playoffs just because of obviously the wide receiver group. But in the coming years, it's going to be hell to pay for everybody else.
Ugh, just get out of here.
This team's gross, and I can see him moving some of the things that are just like an embarrassment of riches, like a defensive end for a wide receiver, and just making this team more disgusting.
We'll see. I mean, he's got to make some moves.
Right after this
They'll
podcast.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how I've lured you all here, is because I've promised you all sorts of trade discussions after the podcast, and that goes for everybody.
This is where Mike tries to trade Watson to each and every one of us one at a time.
I'll give you a
I
Philip
won't do
Rivers
that
for him.
because I don't like to sell that low, and I know that his time will come.
Yoshi, you're on TV. Stop
That's
that.
jail time.
God, you beat me to it.
I'll agree to disagree on that one. But anyways, that gets us through the power ranks. So congratulations to Matt for being the top and the current Super Bowl favorite. Congratulations to
Woohoo.
Sean for being the NFC favorite. And congratulations to Brett for avoiding the curse of both. So, RJ, we did it.
Can I make my call for the actual Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
Dolphins beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl.
Whoa!
Whoa. Totally tubular, dude.
The Dolphins.
Look,
As long as
Dark
Brett
horse.
loses, I'm okay with it.
you can't.
I mean, I feel like
walk
you were
hair.
rooting for me. In private, you were rooting for me last year.
I'll tell you what, you can't
Oh,
walk
yeah.
hair like RJ does. His beard and the top knot without making some pretty just aggressive comments sometimes. And you know what? The man doesn't disappoint. Speaking of not disappointing, I hope these 90 minutes were enjoyable to everybody who listened. We have 0 viewers right now, which means we've done our job and put everybody to sleep. Or we just have the 5 people who actually cared about the content of this on the podcast. But for those listening afterwards, thank you for your patronage. RJ, any closing thoughts?
No, I look forward to the season. Look forward to doing some more pods, and just glad that football's back.
Absolutely. Matt, anything you need to do to back out of the curse or try and avoid the curse here, or are you just going to embrace it?
Oh, no, I'm going to lose to one of the AFC North teams in the finals, or the NFC finals, or AFC finals, whatever the fuck. But what the fuck is a super animal royale? Eric, what?
So we'll address that off pod, I'm sure. But it's good that you're already paying homage to tradition. Sean, glad you could join us for a little bit here. Anything you want to add before we get into the fun stuff?
I'm just happy to prove all the haters wrong every year. So
Prove all the haters wrong who selected you to be the NFC champion.
Yeah,
God,
NFC
we're the
champion,
worst.
NFC
How about you-
champion.
How about you not disappoint us for a year?
How about you win all of your games this year? I mean, come on.
I'm sorry. I lost.
How would you just win the ones that matter?
If I remember correctly, didn't I lose? to
You
the
are one.
Broncos or
You
some
are
shit
one to
too?
talk there.
Brett, as always, it's a joy. And
It's been a pleasure. At some point, we do need to have a pod to discuss MFL true positions and the havoc that will reap
It's
on
not
our
touching
league.
my team.
I would like to not weep openly on a podcast for at least a few more weeks. Let's wait till week 4, where I'm sitting here at 3-5 after trading my first round pick to RJ for a linebacker. Before we get into the weeping openly part of the programming.
Before we go off, when the season does start, in the voice chat in Discord, I'm going to do my best to stream the preferred red zone every week that I am home
man.
and relaxing. So for anybody that is not home relaxing and you can watch the stream on your phone, not sure if that's possible, but I'll do it my best.
It is possible, and RJ, you do have the express written consent of the NFL. Let's just throw that out there into YouTube world.
Yes,
So, speaking of the express written consent of the NFL GMs, I must say thank you for joining us. Good luck this season.